Now, I wanted to take some time and sort of wait this one out before I gave my opinion on. Let every YouTuber say what they want to say and let the discourse sort of like settle down. But I have very strong opinions about Assassin's Creed Shadow. Now, I know somebody who is in the industry, and about, let's say, 10 to 12 years ago, they said something that just happened to struck me. They said, the day Assassin's Creed decides to go to Japan, it's the day Ubisoft's run out of ideas. And lo and behold, we've hit that magical point. Assassin's Creed Shadows, if you've been living in a cave, is the latest installment of the Assassin's Creed game franchise. This time it's set in Japan, two protagonists. There's a lot to unpack there, so let's begin. Now, first, I want to address something about the criticisms of the game and its popularity. I have a problem when people always refer to the Steam page as, an indicator of a game's life or its review. I really don't believe in any of that because it's as frivolous as having Rotten Tomatoes open in front of you and calling out a movie being great because it's got a higher tomato score or something. And I think we tend to go into that direction a lot, even though that's not really healthy for the gaming industry. So in this case, referring to just the Steam page or Amazon pre-order list is not a best or actually even a reliable indicator of a game and its success. Now, for Assassin's Creed Shadows, there's two camps, people that want this game to actually fail, and I don't know why. Actually, we'll explore a little bit of that in a bit. And there's people that are just, without seeing or playing anything, they want this game. They think it's going to be the greatest game ever. And that's fair as well. Now, the thing is, a lot of headlines I'm seeing on sites that don't really cover video games talk about, it's the number one pre-order in Japan, Amazon Japan's number one game. Here's the thing about Japan. We live here at Powerstar Japan. There are so many video game stores. People don't necessarily use Amazon pre-orders as an indicator of a game's success. People actually do line up on opening day for a game. There's pre-order bonuses for a game that are never discussed outside of Japan. Japan isn't about Amazon orders. Yes, Amazon has a big foothold in Japan, but it's not nearly as massive as North America. Big box stores are a thing of the past there. Here, they're still strong. I actually live in a very rural area, and around me there's at least 3 video game stores within like a 10-minute walk. So to rely on those Amazon numbers, I'm not too sure. Now, it's too early to speculate if this game will be a massive success or a massive failure because all we have to go on is this cinematic. And honestly, it is beautiful, but it is a little off-putting. So I'll dive into that next. Now, my problem with this is the classical thing that they've picked Yasuke, a prominent figure in Japanese samurai mythology. Granted, it's based on a real historical figure who was just a retainer, not a shogun. I don't know how they're going to go with this story, and to be honest, I don't really care because it is a work of adapted fiction, and that's fine. It's fair. The problem I have is on both sides of the fence. There's people on Twitter, X, saying stuff like, I'm an Asian and I'm kind of offended that I've been erased because they picked a game in my country and they've replaced it with not an Asian man. Now, if that sounds ridiculous, that's an actual tweet. And it is ridiculous because there is no Asian country. This is Japan. And if you are Japanese, I want to know what you feel. And to be honest, Ubisoft games aren't that hot in Japan. Really, they're not that hot. Ghost of Tsushima was being pushed so hard here. And in all honesty, it did okay. I remember there was every single one of these big box stores, like the Best Buy equivalent, Joshin, had like a display for Ghost of Tsushima Same with The Last of Us Part 2. Same with Call of Duty. And they really try to promote these Western games. But in actuality, people would still go out and buy Dragon Quest. I mean, Final Fantasy Rebirth is having sales troubles here. So there's something else at play. In all honesty, Japanese people probably don't even care what Assassin's Creed Shadow has. They don't care that it doesn't have a male Japanese lead protagonist. And if you're not ethnically Japanese or you're not living here, it shouldn't really matter to you either. This whole conversation about, oh, they're erasing my culture, my character. It's weird because you're in a position to actually go get a job, write, and do something different instead of sitting here making YouTube videos of it. Now, personally, I do understand. I'm not saying I disagree. I do understand because, in all honesty, you have a game which could draw from so many amazing Japanese historical figures, and yet they decided to exclude that. That is the argument I want to stick with, not the idea that, as a Japanese, there's no representation. No, it's like you could have drawn from so many amazing shogunates, so many amazing samurai warriors, philosophers, retainers, and you just decided to just pick the one issue. And perhaps maybe that's telling of the game and its, market focus, because Ubisoft games, like it or not, are primarily the focus of European or North American territories. They're not doing so hot in Japan, and in all honesty, they never will. They're ignoring the fundamental factors of what makes Japanese gamers attracted to games. That's why games like the last Assassin's Creed game, which I can't remember, Mirage, there you go, didn't do so hot here either. So, that being said, I think it's a fair argument to bring up that, yeah, you have people like Musashi Miyamoto to go to. You have, so many cool people such as Nobunaga. I mean, the list could go on and on. You could even focus on Tokugawa and his fall, but, play a different character. And there's so many brilliant ideas, but to focus on Yasuke, it's kind of a little odd. The second thing I have a personal problem of is with Western developers and cultural representation. I think there's a balance towards tolerance and inclusivity, and if you are too far into like, oh, I want to represent and be very inclusive and very tolerant, you sort of teeter on the edge of coming off a little bit racist, perhaps. I'll give you a good example. There is not a single Japanese game or game based with either a Korean, Chinese, or Japanese character that a Western studio has designed where the responding country has said, oh wow, they really got it. There's not a single one. The closest one I could think of in recent memory is Ghost of Tsushima, where the actual region of Tsushima gave Sucker Punch, their developers, honorary ambassadorship, because they were so amazed at the thorough research, respect, and the lengths that they went into that game. And that game is actually a fascinating example of how to do things right and still not be like, the biggest selling game in Japan. They went the full stretch. They hired Japanese voice actors. They matched the full, lip syncing. The actors playing these characters were of Asian descent. There were a lot of Japanese in there too, but a lot of other non-Japanese Asian people representing. And the research and ability that Sucker Punch went and put into Ghost of Tsushima is on full display. And when it came out, it made a splash, and the region of Tsushima actually called out Sucker Punch. I do even remember seeing a news story on that and how honored and amazed they were. But here's the fun part. Remember when this game was announced on, I believe it was like one of those E3s. I miss my mind. I'm going to flash it on the video which year it was. But there was a gentleman, a Caucasian gentleman, who came up and he was playing the traditional Japanese, sort of like a flute style instrument. The comment section was just full of people, but like, oh, white guy trying to horn in and he can't represent. It's like, oh, why don't they hire a Japanese person? Well, as we found out much later, that was a fine gentleman named Cornelius Boots. I absolutely love that last name. A master of the shakuhachi. And again, well known in the circles of the shakuhachi. He is very well respected, but a common Japanese person day to day who has no interest in the shakuhachi would know about that. Neither would somebody living outside of Japan, right? So there's a certain level to balance here, and I personally feel Ubisoft never gets that right. Case in point being Assassin's Creed Mirage is supposed to be a very Middle Eastern. You're in, Mesopotamia, in Iraq. You're supposed to have this real strong culture, yet they always avoid and sidestep some of the more controversial or more interesting storylines within that region. Some of the struggles with the caliphate in Islam, some of the religious perspectives, they completely sidestep that. And what's worse, at the end of the game, you're running through the credits and I gotta say, there's not a lot of Arabs in there. And then there's that glorifying, like, we support the troops of Ukraine. Again, it just stuck out so sorely as a missed opportunity to perhaps maybe comment on the Middle East and the ongoing wars that have happened. Maybe you could have done that, but sanctimony, thy name is Ubisoft. So having said that, I have very little hope in what this game is trying to achieve. It has two characters, and to cut to the chase, you have a black character and you have a female Japanese character. My problem is with the female Japanese character and its design. A lot of Westerners cannot design a proper female Japanese character. Now, you could say, hey, they're doing facial captures, there's limitations to technology, there's even stylistic choices they make. But in all honesty, I used to think those people were tinfoil hat wearing crazy conspiracy theorists who used to say stuff like, oh, all the women in Western games are ugly. I'm kind of starting to see that. I live in Japan, and I see a lot of characters created for their media, be it, stuff like Demon Slayer, manga, stuff you could pick up and read, or even their video games. And it's sort of like they pay a lot of attention to aesthetics and looks of a character. Is it realistic to the Japanese people? Probably not. Actually, absolutely not. But there's a way that they consume this media and they enjoy it. And sometimes you have variations on it. There are changes here and there, and they are respected. However, in this situation, in this case, I have to say the character design for this female character are not good. This is just on the cusp of Stellar Blade and all the controversy it caused. Now, I'm not going to get into the third aspect of this game that a lot of people are discussing, which is that you can have like same-sex relationships or not, and there's a whole thing to do with that. I don't personally care. That's not why I'm playing Assassin's Creed. I'm playing Assassin's Creed to go out there, stealth kill, get into the historical lore of each character. And I think for that, the first game still stands tall. It was an interesting concept, executed kind of in a rough way, but it had something to it. And ever since that, we've not really captured the same regional magic. Mirage was not that great, and I have a feeling that this game is not going to be that great either. There's a problem with this game, and the problem is that there's two camps: people that don't play video games at all, and all they do is they keep making videos of Snow White and how that's going to be the worst movie ever, and they hate everything and everything's woke and all the female characters are ugly, and Broken Clock's going to be right twice a day, right? So at this time, I'm going to say, yeah, the character designs are not really that attractive, especially for the female Japanese character. And that's something I've had anecdotally around me. Personal Japanese friends say, she looks ugly. Now, that's their opinion. That's my friend's opinion. Friends I hang out with. And it's true. I got to respect it. That's their opinion. But is it the end of the world? No, it's not. When the game comes out, we'll see how the game does. Is the game going to be a success in Japan? I really doubt it, because it's not. It's cup of tea. Surprisingly, believe it or not, anecdotally, I've known more people that loved playing Assassin's Creed Unity more than any other Assassin's Creed game. There's a fascination with Europe, and they were really taken by that. I'm not so sure they're keen to dive in to a Western studio's perspective on their land. Furthermore, when they ignore such a vast, amazing array of characters they could have pulled from history. I mean, believe it or not, this is why Samurai Warriors games exist. Those Muso games are, again, stories, legends told about, people in the land. This is why Neo was such a fantastic game. It had a white character, Caucasian character, sure, but it was historically somewhat accurate to who this person was, and then it just ran with it into the crazy mythical stuff, but it still paid respect to some of those lores and stories, and that's what people loved eating up. Now, is this game going to come out and is it going to go wild into the crazy yokai and Japanese mythology? I hope it does. But as far as I know, Assassin's Creed tries to be very grounded and sort of create this, I guess this problem's happened ever since like Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight, where they sort of try to make everything very grounded and established and real. I just think people from time to time have to let go of that. They need to sort of go wild, go crazy. And if you want to create a video game about Japan, and if you're upset that there's no male Japanese person, don't call it erasure. I mean, just call it for what it is, that it's an Assassin's Creed game. You weren't going to play it anyways. I know I'm just going to check it out to see if it's good or not, but it's not on my top 10 list. And the people that do love those games love those games. It's like complaining about Pokemon not being as aesthetically pleasing or work as smoothly as Breath of the Wild. That game's made for that fan base, and that fan base loves what's happening with it, and they keep buying it, and that's fine. So, to sum up, does it really matter? No, it doesn't. I don't care about the Amazon pre-orders. I don't care about what people think about this game and its controversies. I don't need to watch morons on either side, especially the Daily Wire with those nerds talking about this game, or other people that barely play games. They're just there to enrage you, get you upset, make you feel depressed, feel like there's nothing good out there. If you want some good games that personally I've played and I think are great representations of Japan and have real authenticity, Japanese voice actors, designers, go buy Rise of the Ronin. Go play Ghost of Tsushima. It quite possibly is one of the best games I've picked up, because once you travel to the countryside or you learn a little about Japanese history, it really, they've gotten a hold of some of the most authentic aspects of that. Believe it or not, play games like Animal Crossing. That is very Japanese. Police boxes and just the mailing system and small touches that are very reflective of everyday life. Go play games like Breath of the Wild, which again employ a very Japanese aesthetic and feel towards game design. This game is not meant for Japan. This game is not there to erase anybody. It's just a bunch of suits sitting there worrying about, the future of their studio, finally deciding to check in that card and say, let's go to Japan. Because this game should have come out 10 to 12 years ago. And the person that told me the day they decide to go to Japan is the day they've run out of ideas. So this is the day Ubisoft has run out of ideas. And you know what, personally, if you find the characters attractive, fine. If you find the storylines or the romance to have any kind of partner in the game, great, fine. I don't judge you. I think that's fantastic. You do you. Personally, I will check it out. We'll see what the hype is all about. But if this doesn't leave, if it doesn't make me happy, I have Ghost of Tsushima, I have Neo 1 and 2, I have Rise of the Ronin, and the fantastic Yakuza or Like a Dragon series that you can just dive into. They are absolutely amazing and perfect. And they go, I personally, steps above and beyond to get the facial recognition, to get the character designs done right, grounded, but very authentically Japanese, pleasing to the Japanese public and audience. Don't jump on the bandwagon of like, I'm Asian, blah, blah, blah. You're not Japanese. Don't start putting stuff here. It's just like I see couples out here, foreign tourists wearing kimonos. Japanese people love seeing that. They don't think it's patronizing. They don't think it's biting their culture. People from here don't really care. And I think we're really tightly wound up back home in North America and Europe. And we need to chill and we need to shut up and play some games and stop making everything so rage baity. And that's all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it didn't make you get angry. These are just my personal opinions, because at the end of the day, what's good about video games is for every one title that you like or don't like, there's at least 10 more in either direction that you're going to either love as a replacement to or hate even more. And that's okay. That's okay. And yeah, with that, those are my thoughts, and I hope you guys like this video. Please like and subscribe, tell your friends, and let's see what happens with Assassin's Creed Shadow.